All right, we are back with Dr. Robert Huizenga. He's the author of Sex, Lies, and STDs. All right, I alluded to earlier about how many of us just really don't take time to talk to our kids about sex openly and honestly, and that's part of why I think we get into trouble.
We're all embarrassed. We all feel stigmatized, and you know, my parents never taught me anything about sex, and you know, today with the availability of internet porn and things, it's vastly, vastly more important to talk to their kids, to be honest with their kids. But how can parents talk to their kids when they don't know about STDs? Right. And so parents need to educate themselves before they have that talk, and they must have that talk early, not when the kid is 18, you know, basically right around puberty.
Yeah, and with reality, and correct me if I'm wrong, at about, you know, back in the day, at about 12 years old, people would get married, they would have children, die at 24. Right? Because you were very sexual at that time.
True.
We live longer today, and so if you said that, you know, someone 12 years old getting married today, we go, oh, absolutely not. The problem is society has changed, but nature has not. And so we have to mitigate that, right?
That's a great point. I just was at the Amazon, and the average age in there that they got married was 11 or 12. So the sexual functions are lighting up then. Your body is telling you sex is okay, and many individuals at that age do various sexual touching, and other forms of sex, including oral sex, and STDs can be passed, and we must intervene early to stop the epidemics that we're seeing today.
Yeah, speaking of intervening early, when HPV came out, I know in Texas there was a big uproar because the governor signed, you know, said, okay, this is going to be, by law, you have to have this vaccine. And people are like, you don't tell my child to have a vaccine. So that was one thing. The other thing was, but my child's not having sex at this age. That's not the point. It's to catch things ahead of what might happen, right?
Well, there's three things that I need to know. HPV is easily passed by touching, also easily passed by oral intercourse. The next thing is that HPV is a disease that can kill you. Twice as many people die from HPV as AIDS right now.
Wow.
HIV kills 6,000 individuals a year in this country. HPV is killing 13,000.
And it's because HPV can lead to cancer, right?
It kills people by leading to cervical cancer, rectal cancer, and oral cancer, like Michael Douglas or Aaron Andrews, the cervical cancer. So that's important to know the number of people it's killing. There are theoretically some issues with any vaccine. There's no drug-free with no side effects. There's no vaccine without theoretical side effects. But HPV have incredibly safe, proven track record. And in the book, I take 4 pages, because I don't take these anti-vaxxers lightly, about why it's safe. But when you're facing 13,000 deaths a year and maybe at most 50 or 100 weird cases that may or may not be associated with a vaccine, there's no question that the clear benefits vastly outweigh the risk. But in Texas, only 40–50% of parents are using it, and that's criminal, I believe, given the severity of this disease.
All right. We have Matthew in our audience this morning. Good morning, Matthew.
Good morning.
Okay.
Huizenga.
That's close enough.
Yeah, and the question that you wanted to ask?
Yes, the question I wanted to ask is that, you know, what are the risks of like having a sexual intercourse? Is that, you know, when you have the condom, you know, like when you have the condom.
I'll ask your question for you.
Right?
Yeah, right.
You can't get the question out.
I applaud you for actually just at least asking that. But yeah, one of the things that you were asking was, what are the risks of getting someone pregnant through sex? Okay, so I think the crazy thing is that how many of us don't really know our bodies? For women, for example, until we want to have a baby, we don't realize that there really is that 24-hour period that you ovulate in a month, and there's really kind of one time, although, you know, depending on how
several days
sperm
a
will
month,
last.
right.
Yeah. So it's not all the time. But
that is correct.
To know that is knowledge and power, but you can't necessarily depend on that.
Correct. There's obviously 3 or so days per month that a woman who is in the fertile stage of her life, which is maybe from age 12 to age 45, can get pregnant. And it's, people find out when they try to get pregnant, it's not a fait accompli. However, a condom only reduces that pregnancy risk by 80%. Condoms don't always work, and so you need to know, although condoms markedly lower the risk of pregnancy, they don't work 100%, and that needs to be discussed.
Yeah. All right. Speaking of being discussed, how do we talk to our children? At what age do we talk to our children? You know, we start with the chicken and the egg type of thing, but like how do we, and what makes something age appropriate? Or do you believe in just kind of out from the gate, just let's call things what they are, don't call them little cute names?
I mean, I think that you know your children, but you have to assume, unless you're on a different planet, that they're going to start thinking and seeing and hearing about sex at the age of 11 or 12. And I think that's an appropriate time. And don't worry that giving them an HPV vaccine and talking about that is going to make them more promiscuous. Studies clearly show that talking about the birds and the bees, giving them an HPV vaccine does not increase the risk that they become sexually active. Yeah. And so don't have that in your mind that, oh, I'm going to delay it and therefore I'll delay the promiscuity. You have to be honest, and you can't do like the marijuana, like this drug is going to kill you, you know, reefer madness.
You're going to go blind.
Sex is a clear and natural thing, but I want you as my child to be ready for that when the time comes, and that's a different time for everyone. But I want you to be safe, and to be safe, you have to know what the risks are, know what sexual diseases are out there, and you need to know how to prevent it. And I, as a parent, have to take my steps, giving vaccines for HPV, giving vaccines for hepatitis B, hepatitis A, to help prevent that.
Yeah, and be vigilant. Like go in.
Correct.
How often should you go in to get checked?
Well, people at high risk, and we've talked about that several times, should go in every 6 months. Okay. Everyone else, every year at least, or if you're pregnant or thinking about getting pregnant, you need to go in. And again, you need to get screening, not just if you have symptoms.
Right. All right. Dr. Huizenga, thank you very much
Thanks
for coming
for having me.
His book, Sex, Lies, and STDs, is available in bookstores and online now. We have a link on our site, greatdayhouston.com. Make that some good summer reading for your kids. All right?